You're listening to the IWD406 Podcast with your host, Julie Walls, where we celebrate, empower, and connect women across Montana and beyond. Join us as we share inspiring stories, valuable insights, and the voices of remarkable women making a difference in their communities. Today on the podcast, we have Annah Pharr. Annah grew up in a home where the only firearm present was a 12-gauge shotgun. Firearms became a part of her life after marrying her husband, JT, in 2006. While she enjoyed shooting over the years, her focus on firearm training took a back seat to raising her children, of course. That's awesome. Now, Annah is thrilled to be in a place where she feels mentally ready to embrace the responsibilities of intentional firearm training. Woohoo! With an Associate's of Arts degree and 20 years of management experience across diverse industries, including retail, mortgage, non-for-profit, creative media, and finance, Annah brings a wealth of knowledge and leadership to her work. She is deeply passionate about empowering women, I love that, to build confidence and competence in firearm handling, both in the Flathead Valley and beyond. And she follows where God leads her mission.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, I love it, Annah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
I am so excited to talk to you and learn all about your background. And gosh, we've got so much to cover. Firearm handling is a huge thing here in Montana.
It is.
Huge.
It is.
Yes.
The state loves firearms.
We do. We do love firearms. Speaking of the state, our first question is, are you originally from Montana?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not.
You're a transplant
I'm
like
a transplant.
me. Yes. Okay, tell us, where are you originally from?
Yeah, so I was originally born in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And my parents moved to Missouri when I was 1.
Okay.
My dad was a pastor at a small church, and I lived there until I was 20. And
Okay, Missouri Ozarks?
No, so off of I-70, a little bit east of Kansas City.
Oh.
So on the west side.
Oh, you're on the west side.
Yeah.
I think Missouri, people don't realize that there's actually some beautiful parts of Missouri.
Yes.
And
it can be very beautiful. There's down south
Right.
in the Ozarks is very beautiful. The sunsets are
Stunning.
amazing.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
hear the crickets.
Yep.
I I miss that about the Midwest,
Yep.
is the crickets and the lightning bugs.
Lightning bugs. Yes. I was just going to say
sorry,
that.
I interrupted you.
No,
Yeah.
my children don't know anything about lightning bugs or toads.
What? And toads. You're so
That was
right.
my summer.
I know, running out into the muddy riverbanks
Yep.
and grabbing
Yep.
toads. Oh gosh, and then you put them in those little coffee can jars.
Yep.
And even the little painted turtles. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yep.
like reminiscing.
Yep.
I'm reminiscing.
Little things like that you don't
do.
realize when you move away.
You do.
Yeah.
But Montana brings in such a different quality of beauty. And
Oh, yes.
everything just seems so much bigger. I think back in the Midwest, everything was small and like the little tiny details. Here to me, it's like the mountains.
The
and the rivers.
the large animals.
And the large, everything's bigger here in Montana.
Yes,
It
bigger,
really is.
a lot of predators.
A lot of predators. That's so true. Okay, so growing up in Missouri, what was that like?
Oh man, good. I grew up on a gravel road.
Yeah.
I lived on a gravel road in a small country town until I was in 9th grade. We
Okay.
moved to town my 9th grade year, but I had summers of literally just being a feral child with our
Yes.
neighbors running around.
Yes.
Not hunting. We didn't do a lot of hunting, but we did a lot of fishing.
Okay, gotcha. A lot of riding your bike on the gravel roads with
Yes.
lots of Band-Aids from scraped knees.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
running barefoot, all the
Yes.
things.
Yes, I love that. So, okay, yeah, speaking of, did you grow up handling firearms?
No.
Was it more of hunting and fishing?
So my dad wasn't a hunter. He was a pastor. And the only gun we had was a shotgun.
Right.
So we would use that for snapping turtles.
Okay, gotcha.
Because we had chickens and geese and stuff
Yeah.
and ducks. And on the occasion, the rabbit or, animals,
Yeah.
cats causing problems, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
We would, protect
Yes.
our animals and our property. And
Got you.
that's the only thing we had. I did not even really think of handguns until I met my husband.
When did you meet your husband?
So, well, I guess later on, technically, I thought about handguns. But my husband and I met when I started public school in 7th grade.
Okay, were you homeschooled?
I was private school. So my older siblings were homeschooled for a little bit. I missed the cutoff.
Yeah. That's kind of I'm thinking in the Midwest, the homeschooling thing wasn't a thing.
It was not back then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when I homeschooled my kids, that was so foreign to me. I did not even know of another family growing up that was a homeschooling family. So you weren't a homeschooling child. Your brothers and sisters were homeschooled.
My older ones were, but me and my younger sister, yes. I'm 4 of 5. So we were a larger family.
Yeah.
4 girls and 1 boy. And yeah, my parents, I think my dad being a pastor and stuff, like he worked his butt off to make us able to go to a private school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not cheap.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford it. So we ended up going to public school.
Yeah.
So how was your public school experience?
Oh, man. It was shocking, to be honest. Like, it
really?
was really hard.
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
From being, in the country and kind of like my siblings and my neighbors were who I grew up with. And so I think it was shocking in the sense of coming from the private school world and not really realizing some of the homes that people, kids lived and came in, some of the things that they were struggling with. Like, in 7th and 8th grade, you already had people who were, involved in drugs, sexually active, like all those things. And I was like,
yeah. And being a pastor's kid, that's really
to me, it
foreign.
Was very shocking.
Yeah. That morality piece.
Yeah. But I loved the sports. I loved the opportunity to, play volleyball, do basketball, to be in choir.
Yeah.
I loved all those extracurricular activities that I never had necessarily an avenue to pursue that with the private school. Like, we had way smaller, divisions.
Yeah. And it's a smaller pool to pick for children, right? And I think in the public school, you have more options to do different things.
More competitive, so you can,
and more
raise,
competitive. Yeah, raise the bar a bit.
Yep.
So then, so when you got into high school, were you met your husband? No.
Yeah, in 7th grade.
In 7th grade, but you weren't dating.
We never dated.
Okay.
We never dated. So we were friends. We always had, I think, an attraction to one another. Yeah. We were went to the same church, the same youth group, and same kind of group of friends. And then he moved away freshman year to a different town. And so from freshman year to when we graduated, we maybe saw each other like once a year at the little fall festival.
Oh, cute. But you still liked him.
We knew I always thought personally he was the most attractive person in school, but also he kind of had a little, I wouldn't say he was a bad boy, but he was very ornery, mischievous, and I was like a straight A student, preacher's kid. I did not do parties. I did not do any of that stuff. Like, my weekends consisted actually of me helping my dad work. Like, I washed trucks for his construction company that he worked with, and I mowed lawns. Like, I was so busy that I never did anything with like the popular kids.
Well, it's like
school.
Remember the movie Footloose?
Yeah.
Okay, were you the preacher's daughter, and you were like, I'm going after that bad boy?
No. If anything, because I did eventually date, and then we usually were dating other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then when did you guys circle back around and get together?
So we had seen each other the last time at my graduation for our school. He came back and was with a girlfriend. Ooh. And I ran across and we hugged each other, and I was so excited to see him. But I knew that he had enlisted and joined the Marine Corps. Oh. And so he was going to be going off to boot camp and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like a bye type of thing. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit later, 2 years later, one of our mutual friends who I was going to community college with, people are going to laugh at this.
I love it.
He was on MySpace, and he was looking at JT's profile, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's JT. And so I got on and I sent him a little note just saying, awesome, I'm proud of you, and all that kind of stuff. And it turned into like a few weeks later, I kind of had this nudging of like, you need to contact him. Oh. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And so I got his email, but he was currently in Iraq at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that he was on his first tour.
Okay.
And so I got his email and was like, this is weird. Because at that point, I wasn't reaching out of like, oh, I want to like be with this person. I truly, like, as a friend, not many people from our class joined.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, and we lived through 9/11. So this was in 05.
Okay.
Like in 05, early 06. And
so it was kind of during a time where, you know, I felt like 9/11, going back in history, there was a lot of people that were fired up and they immediately signed up. And this is a little bit of they've already been over there. The troops are there, right? And then do you know what made him enlist at that time?
For him, it was a couple of things. One of them, he had a dream.
Okay.
And in that dream, he was honestly like a little boy sitting on Jesus's lap.
Oh, I love that.
And Jesus opened his hands and had the eagle, globe, and anchor, which is what you get when you go through boot camp. That is what you get, is your eagle, globe, and anchor. And so he had that dream. And his parents, you know, were totally against it. They were like, absolutely not. Like they knew what was happening in Iraq. And we were, I think, 04, 05, don't quote me on this, was like one of the deadliest, you know, years that we had. And so they didn't want their son, you know, going over there. And he was very adamant. They were like, we're going to pay for college and all this. And he said, no, like, I want to do this. Like, God's calling me to do this. And I want to do something by myself. He's like, he knew too at that point, if he had gone to college, he would have flunked out.
Oh, gotcha.
He was not ready. He was not mature enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he had this strong calling. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So then he's in Iraq. And you're starting to develop this relationship with him.
So we started emailing each other back and forth.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So very old school.
Yes.
But we really loved that because we started out in that it was genuine friendship.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, what are you up to? What is God doing in your life? Oh. You know, and then we were able, at one point he asked, like, do you have a boyfriend? Yeah. So that was his way of like starting the conversation, I guess. And at that point, we had actually both been out of relationship. I had actually bought myself a ring because I was like, I am in school. I'm focused on school. I had multiple jobs at the time. And I was like, I don't want to date.
Yeah.
Like at that point, I was already done. And I said, the only person I want to date is someone who's going to be serious about getting married, which is crazy because I was 20.
Yeah.
You know, I got to
ask you because, you know, I'm looking back and I'm just going to do some comparative things. Looking back at 1920, I mean, I was ready to rock and roll in college. Like that was my jam. And I wanted to date and explore and have fun. And I wasn't at all, when you were just saying that, you had a light in your eye of like, I was super focused. I know what I wanted. I don't think I knew what I wanted at 20 years old. And I don't think I knew what I wanted in a partnership. That was still kind of like, kind of testing the waters of like, this guy, I don't know. I mean, there were some things about him I liked, but there's a lot of things I didn't like. Yeah. Right? Moving on.
Oh, yeah.
But you at that point knew, was it because you had already connected with him on a soul level and you're like, that's what I want? Do you subliminally think that you had that or subconsciously think you had that? I
don't know. I think I knew he was from a Christian home.
Yeah.
But again, like I saw him in school. So, you know, that's why we never dated, is because there was some immaturity.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of women, depending on if you are a more, you know, old soul, mature woman, where we don't have the time of day to deal with someone who's immature. Like if I'm going to have a partner, they need to be equal and they need to be serious.
Yes. I love that you just said that.
I already at that point, like, I don't know if that was a lot of just my upbringing and my faith. I know I did read like Dr. Phil's Love Smart book back in the day. And then He's Just Not That Into You.
Yes.
Like I got that book. And so not a Christian book or anything, but it definitely talked about those different scenarios and how you can quickly pick up and see, like, don't waste my time.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
And that was kind of my mindset of like, I'm not gonna waste my time.
I love that. I love that you had a cognizant, understanding around your energy is valuable. I don't think I had that until way later.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was always people pleasing and giving my energy away to things that really didn't matter or to people that didn't value my energy. Right.
Yep.
So but I also too want to say, I love that. I think women need to talk more about that.
Yeah.
I think that's important. But I also want to say the fact that you had a period of courting.
Yes.
We don't do that anymore.
Don't.
What?
I know. People, when they're like, you sound so old.
No.
Or my daughter will say, from the olden days.
No, but I think I love it. I wish.
Oh my goodness.
There's so much value in just
so much value.
Stopping and not rushing into things. And I'm going to say this, it's seemingly now, I've been married for a very long time. I feel like it's a long time. I love my husband, but it's been a very long time. And I look back at like the dating world, even then it has dramatically changed to what I understand dating is now.
Oh my goodness.
Women, I feel women are more aggressive. Women more are the pursuers. Men are not pursuing as much. Maybe I'm completely wrong at that. And I think that women are in that dominant driver's seat and they can determine whether or not they want to be sexually active. They want to take a pause, whatever that looks like. And I don't know if that's giving men, if men are becoming more confused and what courting even is.
Right.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think part of it too is with my upbringing, like we weren't allowed to date.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, until we were a little bit older. And even when we did, that's how old I am, guys. I had a rotary phone.
So did I.
You know, the phone book, right?
I love that.
But we weren't allowed to give our phone numbers out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which even now, I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, OPSEC and situational awareness and all those things, don't give your phone numbers out to people, right?
Right.
But yeah, back then, so if someone wanted a phone number, they'd either have to ask someone else, like if the boy was interested enough, he had to find the phone number to call.
So he had to pursue it.
He had to pursue.
There's something about that, that animalistic right.
Yeah.
I mean, we both, women and men have that, but men are just different. They're hunters and you are the prey, right? And I did find, I don't know about you, but I found something really exciting about that growing up of people pursuing our phone. That phone number was very sacred.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really a thing now.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I don't think it is. Like you said, I think, honestly,
It's so accessible.
I think there's that toxic feminist movement.
Yes.
And I don't think we've realized what that has actually done to women. And honestly, even like essentially neutered men in that pursuit to do anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this is something that needs to be talked about. And I just had this conversation the other day with somebody about that sensitivity piece and then what our sons are up against. And I do feel that women need to recognize that.
Oh yeah.
Because men are, I look at my little two boys that are just trying to figure out the world that they're about to enter into. They have a safety net here in my home, and now I'm releasing them out into the wild essentially, and they've got to navigate through just what they have to deal with to survive. And then now I look at the layer added to it of the pressures of dating the women today. I mean, wonderful women that we have today, but I don't even know how to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing a massive amount of women putting themselves out there. I'm even my son he's had some incidences where there has been where girls have thrown them and he doesn't know what to do with it. That's an adult thing. It's an adult conversation.
Yeah.
He's not there yet. And I'm like, I don't know, but that's not something I did.
Right. I mean, really, what was our access to pornography when we were younger?
So true.
Like now kids just have it on their phone and limited access. And sadly, a lot of the youth, especially the girls, you feel all the magazines, all the things are showing them that you need to mature quicker.
Oh,
you
I love
need
that.
to look like this. You need to be this. And it's like we have lost our innocence for our children and allowing them to grow and mature at the rate that they should be growing and maturing. And they're end up doing things that were really, they'll have consequences the rest of their life.
Adult consequences.
Yeah.
At 18 years old.
Or younger. And it's really sad.
Well, and it's not only sad in the fact that, I look at even too, I don't know if, maybe people listening, but I've even had to have those conversations with my son about both of my sons about, hey, you're 18 years old. You're going to be 18 years old. You're now officially an adult. I think Montana is 18, right? Or is it okay?
I think it is.
18,
don't quote me on that.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I'm not stating that. So, but yeah, 18 years old. If you start dating a girl at 16, right? Mm-hmm. If the parents, if you did something wrong, or if there's an issue that comes up, you're at risk, buddy, for the rest of your life. Yep. I mean, you can be, put through the court system. You can be accused of something, and maybe you did do something, right? Yeah. You have to be cognizant of that now. Yeah. Like even more so.
Which is hard. Yeah. Because they don't have their prefrontal cortex till men have it till 25. I believe women it's 21.
Yes.
And yet you have people making all of these decisions that they don't even have the brain capacity to fully understand the consequences.
Right. It's
crazy.
Well, and I love to go back to faith. Mm-hmm. Is grounding them in faith, beliefs, respect for women. Oh my goodness, yes. All the things that we're taught in the Bible. I don't want to go completely down that road, but I do believe, coming from a spiritual family, a faith-based family, there is a code of conduct in play. And like you mentioned, you were not allowed to date until your parents felt you were ready for that. Mm-hmm. And whatever that ready is, they had a definition behind that, right?
Yep. We had curfews. I had a curfew until I was out of the house.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, you're 18, you can do that. No, I had a curfew of midnight. And my dad always said, nothing good happens after midnight.
It's true.
And absolute, right?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
100%. 100%. Yes. Like, tell me something good that's happened after midnight.
I know.
And majority of the time, no, you have all kinds of consequences for being out late.
Yes.
Yeah. Bad decisions.
But let's talk about the good decisions that you've made in your life. Yeah. So you met your husband, he went to Iraq, and you were kind of going through the courting process. And then when he came back, did you guys get married?
Yeah. So, he was in Iraq. We were emailing back and forth, and it quickly turned into, okay, this feels more serious. So it was the kind of thing like we were both anxious and waiting for like an email, to go, I have an email? And then I had a couple phone calls, which was very rare, to have.
Yeah.
So he had, got my number, and we had a couple phone calls while he was in Iraq still. And on his way home, he had a layover in Germany, and he racked up this like $300 phone bill. And we were having, long conversation. And during the conversation, he had asked that when he came home, he was going to be on leave for 2 weeks, coming back to Missouri, and he wanted to be exclusive.
Ooh, that's next level. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I appreciated that,
Yes.
But also at the time, like I had not shared with my family that I was talking with him.
Okay.
He had not shared with his family.
But did they know him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Because when they lived in the same town, we went to the same church.
Did your mom and dad approve of him?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to be personal, but I'm like, did they approve?
Yeah, no, okay. It's crazy because so when he got back, so we spent that week, 2 weeks together, and that was during my finals for that semester at school. And I was a straight A student, like very much do my work, show up, all that. I blew off so much during that week of finals for a man.
Oh,
I did.
I love that.
I did because I was like, I know we only have this amount of time before he had to go back and report for duty in Camp Pendleton. And so it was like, okay, like this is my time to see him in person.
Yeah.
And I did not realize it, but the first week we were together, I went over to his parents' house and they were cooking dinner and stuff. And at some point his dad had pulled him aside and said, if you let this one go, it's going to be the biggest mistake of your life.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
So, in 1 week. And so JT goes, okay, I think we need to go get a ring then.
Wow.
And so I didn't know that they had went and picked out a ring.
Okay.
We had kind of already, though, seriously been talking.
Okay.
Because I think through those emails and then being in person, like it had quickly become very serious in regards to like, what does the future look like?
Yeah.
Because, we didn't really want to do long distance.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier is your energy matters and that, the risk reward, right? Blow off school. This matters. This is where I need to put my focus at.
Yep.
And so then from there, how much later did you guys end up getting married?
So he proposed the day before he left.
Okay.
So within the 2 weeks of him, that was our dating really, was like a 2 week.
2 weeks of exclusivity. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you asked about my dad and my parents, and my dad, we still ask him to this day, because now that we are older, right? Like our prefrontal cortex was not
Developed yet.
Yeah. But my dad has always given the answer. I know how I raised my daughter.
Okay.
And I trust her decision.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And so he did technically ask for my hand, but it was after we were already technically engaged, because it happened so quickly.
Okay.
He wasn't able to ask my dad before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then he leaves. You later get married.
Yeah. So we got married 3 months later.
Holy buckets. That's quick.
We threw a wedding together.
And then was he in Iraq while you're in
No, so
newlyweds?
he went, so he, Camp Pendleton, came back home, we got married. Our honeymoon was this lovely trip in a smallish U-Haul with the tiny bit of, furniture we had at that point, driving to California.
Yes.
So funny, crazy, wouldn't recommend it.
Yes.
But for us, that was part of our journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of our starting,
Yeah.
being a young married couple. But it was so ridiculous. We got married, but we couldn't even rent the U-Haul because we weren't old enough.
Oh, that's a riot. That's a riot. Your kids are going to be listening to this episode one day when they get older.
One day, maybe.
And go, oh, I didn't know that about mom and dad. Those
Yeah.
little tidbits. I think
Yeah.
that's so important to share that, those details. My kids hardly ever ask about the way my husband and I met and how we got married, but I think it's important for them to know. And I think the courting is such a big thing,
So important.
because that teaches them that it's important to good things come to those who wait and build that relationship up.
Yes. And I think it's important to get to the heart of someone.
Yes.
And be able to ask the hard questions without there being any physical distractions or blinders, to you.
Yeah.
To where it shouldn't just be physical, because, we're going to age.
Oh, yeah.
We're, something could happen. We could have accidents and, all these types of things. And it's like, you need to know the heart and the foundation of the person that you are looking to join to start a life with.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So that's one, I love to hear those types of stories. I mean, the starting of like, we were in a U-Haul driving across the country. I think that's
crazy.
so cute. I love it. It's a good start.
Yeah. So we were married then 7 months.
Okay.
We knew we had 7 months till his next deployment. And that was another reason we got married so quickly.
Okay.
And so many people were like, no, wait till you're out of college. Wait till he's out of the Marine Corps. And both of us kind of had this gut thing of why would we wait?
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to spend as much time together. Well, what if something happens to him?
Right.
And I was like, well, then I had time with him.
Yeah.
Why would I give up that opportunity to be with him?
Yeah.
And for us to, kind of have that life together. Why would I wait until the quote unquote perfect time? There is no perfect time.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I love that. So then did you have kids right away?
We did not.
Okay. You
We
waited.
did not. So we waited. I worked full time in retail. So that's kind of, I had been working in retail. And then when we moved out to California, I found another job. And I worked full time and he worked full time, and we just enjoyed, our off time.
Yeah, I love
together
that. Yes.
Without kids.
Yes. So then now fast forward to when did you start having children?
Okay. So
Were you in Montana at that time?
No.
Okay.
We were still at that point we were in Missouri. So he finished that deployment and finished his active duty service. And then we moved back to Missouri. And he went to college there. So the plan was he was going to get the quickest degree and then go back in for officer candidacy school.
Okay, got you. Did you ever finish you finished your associates?
I finished my associates
Okay, gotcha.
during that second deployment.
Okay, got you.
And
you're in criminal justice, right?
I was going to do criminal justice.
And what were you going to do with that?
I wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, crazy.
What was his degree in?
So originally he was going to, again, just pick the quickest one so he could go to the officer school because he wanted to fly. But he had an accident playing football and broke his wrist. So he's got some plates and screws. And he knew then, he's like, there's no way I could pass a physical. And he's like, I'm not going back in if I can't do what I was going to, what I really wanted to do. So that's what God kind of changed that trajectory. And he ended up getting his degree in, Why am I blanking right now?
Was it business?
No.
Cybersecurity?
Strategic communication.
Okay.
So journalism. The journalism school. Stratcom. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay. And then what led you guys from Missouri to Montana?
Yeah. So through that, he got a job. We worked for a VA home loan mortgage company, worked on the legal side of that. So with all of their marketing and stuff like that. But he kind of always had this pull still of missing that camaraderie.
Yeah, of course.
Of being in the military and all that. And so he had got hooked up with some guys and they started their own contract security firm.
Okay, got you.
And so he was working both at that point, and then he did that one ended up going full time with that. And through that, we had a campus reach out to that company to come do a risk assessment in Lakeside, Montana. And so he went out and did that the summer of 2018.
So a campus risk assessment.
A risk assessment for the campus, yeah.
Meaning potential attacks to the campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the campus is a ministry, and yearly they average about 350 people.
Where's this at?
On the campus in Lakeside.
It is. What's it called?
YWAM.
YWAM.
So Youth with a Mission.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's an old Air Force base.
Oh.
Is what it was. Yeah.
I have never heard of this.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you can go there for college?
So it's a Christian ministry. So it's you can get college credits for it. But what they do, their big ones are like discipleship training school for people who are interested in ministry or serving overseas.
Wow.
So you do like a 3-month lecture, and then you serve 2 months overseas in another country.
Okay. Do you have to have a military background?
No. So primarily, Youth with a Mission is actually geared towards people who've either just graduated high school or college.
Oh, okay. So kind of like a gap year where you can go and you can go explore other countries. Yep. You can work in the military. You can go and preach. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. You share the gospel. You can help with kids ministries.
I love that.
Yeah. All different types of things. And so the campus, if I remember correctly, there had been a threat in town. And they quickly realized they had no policies or procedures on campus for how to lock down.
Wait, hold on. There was a threat in town. What was that threat?
It was like an active shooter, I believe.
In Lakeside? Oh, I didn't even know that. Was that
2018.
Okay. It was before we moved here. Interesting. Didn't realize that. That is interesting how sometimes these entities, these organizations, these, campuses, they wait until something major happens, right?
Yep.
That seems to be what happened with Columbine and all these high schools where there were active shooters. So he was brought in to set all that up, right?
So to do a risk assessment, so to walk around the campus, see how the daily activities are. They didn't really have, their security team was more of just we lock doors at night. But there was really no one to deal with de-escalation. Okay. As far as on occasion, right? You have kids in an area, you could have things happen as far as people stealing, sexual assaults, like any of those things where people might need to be removed and sent home. Yeah. And they had no policies or procedures. They had no anything.
Oh, wow.
To
manage
deal with
that.
Those situations. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a whole new blank slate for him to work in.
Yeah.
So then you guys packed up and moved here.
Yeah. So he came back from that trip and he was like, I kind of had a Holy Spirit trip. Like God turned the work trip to a Holy Spirit trip. And he's like, I think we're supposed to quit our jobs, sell everything and go into missions. Oh. Yeah. And I was like,
what was your thoughts?
Okay. And so we had kind of prayed about it. We were listening to sermons and, talking to some mentors, and everything was leading to.
What was it that, how we have that intention that God comes into our heads and says, okay, I'm an intention person every morning. Like, God, what's my intention for today? What were the intentions that were sent to you about going there?
Yeah. So for me, because my husband was very much like, I need to know, from you. And it was more of like the Holy Spirit just speaking out of me. But I think at that point we had been married 12 years and we had gone through a lot. Yeah. Yeah. And
you had kids at this point?
We had kids at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Wow. Okay.
And I knew at this point, my father-in-law had passed away And I knew like my husband and his walk with God had taken just the most beautiful steps forward.
Yeah.
And so I knew at that point, if God was calling us, we're going to go. And so I said, if he's told you this, I don't need to pray about it. Like as a spiritual leader, we're going.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an awesome, supportive wife you are. That's beautiful. I
Not
love
always.
I hear you. You're going to make me cry. Okay. I should have brought cleanup. So then you made the trek to Montana.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we
talk to me about your first experience coming here and having 2 little kids.
Yeah. So after we said yes.
Yes.
You know, we did for sale by owner for our home. We put our notices in, sold our vehicles.
Was everybody
got
like,
our
what
truck.
are you doing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got you.
My family was a little bit more understanding because my dad came, like how he got to Missouri was through a ministry organization where they send people to go serve at churches. And my grandmother was a missionary in Guatemala. And so I think my family had a little bit better heart posture of like, well, yeah, like if God's called you, go. Mm-hmm. And I think other people and friends literally thought we were crazy. You know, we had one guy that was a close friend of ours, and he came over. We're literally packing, you know, all kind of stuff. We'd also found out we were pregnant.
Okay.
So I was 7 months postpartum and found out I was pregnant. So that was another thing of like, okay, God.
Irish twins.
Okay, God.
Yes.
But this friend said, he's like, I feel so sorry for you.
You had a 4 and a 1, right? Okay. So did you have a couple?
Yeah. So we've lost a couple.
Okay.
So we lost our first and our third.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So our daughter and then our middle son are technically both rainbow babies.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
baby
Okay.
born after a loss.
Okay, got you. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yes, thank you.
So you were postpartum, found out you're pregnant.
Yep.
It's time
so
to
we're
go.
packing all the things, and this friend came over, and he's like, I feel so sorry for you that you're not pursuing the American dream.
What?
Yeah. And like that literally broke our heart. It still does. Of like, we're pursuing God.
Yes.
You know, like nothing else matters. Yeah.
Oh, what was that about?
Yeah. So it was hard. And it still is.
Why would he say that? What was his, do you know his intentions behind that?
I think it truly was. He thought that whole thing of like, I hope it works out for you.
Oh,
You know, because we rely on, supporters and lots of prayers.
yeah.
And God truly has carried us, and we gave up a lot.
Yeah, you
We
would
gave
have.
up a lot. And I think for him, I think people can just get caught up in the world
Yeah.
and things. And I think we even at a point were caught up,
Yeah.
in the world and doing things. And that's where God, rocked us.
Yeah.
Of like, are you willing?
Yes.
Are you willing to go? Where I literally had no idea where we're going. I mean, we had to Google.
Yeah, you have to Google what's Lakeside.
What's Lakeside? We're so concerned. We were like, what is there? Shops anywhere? Are there hospitals?
Right, right.
Like all of these things.
But you just trusted.
Yeah, and we're like, I mean, people live there. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
But I did. It was hard. We packed up. We lived with some friends for a month because we had sold our home.
Yeah.
So we were living out of bags for a month in December.
With little ones.
Little ones and, growing belly.
Yeah.
And we left the last week of December and came out here.
Holy buckets, in December.
In December.
Wow.
Yep.
And what was that like moving in? Did you move? You moved into some crazy
Oh my goodness.
setup.
So like I said, it was an old Air Force base, and let's just say there weren't many upgrades from the time that they've purchased and been utilizing that for the DTSs in the schools. It was rough.
So like barracks?
It was old barracks. And so we had a joint room with literally just like a floppy mattress bed. And then you had to walk through, and the kids had like a bunk bed. And so we had to set up like a pack and play. But I remember walking in and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. What a test.
Because I looked around and I was like, I don't even want my feet on this floor, let alone my 1-year-old and, my toddler. I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
And then the bathrooms were communal bathrooms. And so you'd have to like leave your room, walk down the hallway. And even then I was like, how are we going to make this work?
Yeah. The bathing. I'm just thinking of all the little logistics of like bathing and changing diapers and
oh my goodness, it
place
was crazy.
To play.
Yep. It was crazy. They did have a little like nursery room. And the weird thing was too, of like, we got accepted and they're like, okay, who's going to be your nanny? And we're like, what? They're like, yeah, oh yeah. So during the lecture phase, you need to have someone to take care of your kids.
What?
And so we had to pay. It was actually my mother-in-law came down. So she lived in a dorm room.
In the barracks?
Yep.
Holy
yep,
buckets.
in a different room. And then she would watch the kids in the nursery room while we were in lecture. And she did that for 3 months.
Holy buckets.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
During that time, what did you learn?
Whew. I can put up with a lot more than I think, I could. But I think also, you know, for us, we loved the kids. I say kids, young adults, right? You know, these are people who just graduated, most of them high school. Some
were you like the
age.
only people there that had kids, and were they like, what is going on?
So we were the only students.
Okay, gotcha.
Like I said, most of them, the age range is from like 18 to 24. We were 33.
Holy buckets.
Like we were established.
You're old. Just kidding.
Old with kids, all of this, and not the typical target market, you know, for this school.
Yeah.
And even through that though, like it was good. They brought different teachers in every week for different topics, and going through the lecture phase with those students was really good. Mm-hmm. Like they loved on us. They loved on our kids. And it truly was like, we learned through that process, and later we were meant to have the lecture phase with that group because we really needed people to pour into us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, I'm sure it was a learning lesson for them to watch you as a family.
Yep.
Right? So there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah. So many of them.
Yes.
Throughout it. We're just like, you've inspired me to see that ministry does not just mean a single person.
Right.
It can mean a family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your kids probably don't remember a lot of it, but
yeah, Troy does it. And then of course, so we were pregnant, and then that team left to go overseas for the 2 month, and we stayed to have the baby. And then we were going to jump on the next team's outreach portion.
Okay. To leave, to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you ended up not doing that.
No, we did.
You did do that?
We did still go. Yeah.
Oh, where did you guys end up going?
Yeah, that was a crazy experience. So
where did you go?
We went to Taiwan.
Okay.
So again, this was in the summer of 2019.
Okay.
And at that point, we had a 4-year-old, the 15-month-old then at that point, and then a 2-month-old.
Holy buckets.
Yeah.
To Taiwan. How long were you guys there for?
We were there for 2 months.
And what was that? That had to have been cool.
It was cool. It was cool, but again, very trying. The living situation were, we lived in 2 different parts of Taiwan while we were there and served, and we did kids ministry.
Okay.
And it was very intense. It was very hot.
Okay. Very.
But we were doing, you know, English classes and sharing the gospel. And I think one of the classes we were averaging like 300 students.
Holy buckets. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And it was kind of crazy for us and our team for many reasons. In Taiwan, typically they don't have more than 2 children. And so a lot of people had never seen American children.
Okay.
Like it was very rare for them. Our kids were blonde.
Yes.
That was another thing that literally during the breaks, people would come over and just like stare at the kids. They were like little celebrities.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's cool.
Yeah. And even things like we don't think about, like here in America, in Taiwanese culture, you don't have tattoos. Women don't have tattoos. Gotcha. They don't have piercings. And it ended up being that our team was like the most tattooed team ever.
Yeah.
But to them and their culture and everything, only gangsters, you know.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Have tattoos.
Well, you know what I also think is interesting too is a percentage of Christians across the world. Obviously, it's declined.
Yeah.
And don't quote me on that statistics, but I even know in Bethlehem, I think they're down to only less than 2% of the population is now Christian. In Taiwan, was there an urgency? Was there an outcry for Taiwanese people to become Christian, or was there a pushback on it?
No. So they're still It's not illegal.
It's not illegal.
So that's why, some ministries do go into places where it's illegal to preach the gospel. And so you have to.
Yeah. How do they teach you to work through that?
Yeah. So usually there is a point person that already has something established and is working within the community. But one of the things that's kind of
if they catch you, what happens?
Not good things.
Like people go to prison?
Yeah.
Prisoner?
Get beat, all the things.
Holy buckets.
Yeah. And so it was really something for us is kind of like where our ministry ended up kind of getting off the start was going overseas and seeing, but also realizing that we were really putting people at risk by going overseas and not teaching them situational awareness, de-escalation, to look for those things. And a lot of, younger people don't realize that other cultures, they have any like environment that you walk into has a baseline.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you can know that, but when you walk into another culture, it's hard for Americans, especially young, Americans who are just excited to be out of the country for the first time.
Right.
Everything looks odd.
Yeah,
to
that's
them.
true. Yeah.
And so it's hard for them to actually pull out and understand maybe that this culture, this is like their baseline. There's warm culture, there's cold culture, like all of these different things that you should be assessing and paying attention to when you have really, like in any culture, we're the anomaly.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we know everybody's watching us. Everybody's paying attention to us. Why are you here? What are you doing? Do you have money? All of those things. And it's like, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're setting our teams up for success, not just for the heart of sharing the gospel, but success in that there's not going to be any scenarios that happen that are going to endanger, the livelihoods of the people that we're working with, endanger the students themselves. And that wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing to train them to do.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Especially if you're going to a country that doesn't allow guns, right? So then how do you then have self-defense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of layers that goes along with, like you just had mentioned. And now you and JT are seeing that.
Yep.
That food for thought. And I also I'm kind of all over the place, but I want to go back to the fact that you went to a country that allows ministry. Now, what if would you have, I'm going to go there, but would you have considered a country that doesn't allow ministry to take your family to, if that's what you were would you have done it?
I think we would have. So
you would have.
One of the things that God really highlighted when we were in the process of doing the paperwork and getting started initially was disobedience is not an option.
Got you. Yeah.
And so that's kind of been our anchor point motto, word that we always go back to of if we are still walking the path that God has called us to, no matter what comes up against us. Because man, you want to talk about spiritual warfare. It's that whole thing of once you're no longer in that rat race and you stand up and you're like, I'm going to go a different direction. You are so exposed. You are so exposed on every level.
Yeah, that's so true.
For spiritual warfare. And so for us, it was just as we were on the same page, disobedience is not an option. Whatever we were going through at the time, because we've had a lot of crap the last 5 years. And it's okay. It's coming from all fronts, but we know we are where we're supposed to be. And so we're just going to keep working.
Wow.
We're just going to keep doing it.
But I think that messaging, what you just said, is so important, because I do feel like we are in a really awkward space and time in the world.
Yeah.
And as Christian followers, there's a lot coming up against us on every angle. Yep. And I feel like even our biggest support teams in the world, the Vatican, all these places, what's going on there? And I do think that your messaging to me speaks to, it kind of gives a little bit of foreshadowing in my mind of what we may be experiencing in the future for those people that are faith, they're believers. And I think there is going to be a time where it's going to be, you have to stand up.
Yep.
And I,
yep.
And I think there's going to be a lot of people questioning it. And I do think that disobedience will come into play big time. That's my personal thoughts. You know, who knows what the future holds, but we're here.
You can see it in history.
You can see it.
There's so many times where things happening in the world, you know, you can think of, you know, what happened with the Holocaust and how many people, if people had just stood up and said no.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like it's sad that it got to the point that it did, but it's one of those things like those convictions and your calling and those things of, I think so many people in the world will take information and use it to be paranoid instead of get prepared. And that's, you know, kind of like the heart of what our ministry is and what we do. Because I think our ministry is Mission 91. It's based off of Psalm 91, which is considered like the warrior's prayer.
Yes.
So you're asking for that hedge of protection, you know, night or day, whatever comes your way, that you are protected. And so I think there are a percentage of people, clearly, like we have first responders, you know, those are our warriors here. We have the people who are active duty that serve, you know, to protect our country, and they have that spirit. And I think we've lost a little bit, in my opinion, of our foundation of like everyone had that spirit when they came over to America.
Right.
And so much of that, I think that we've lost that understanding of to be prepared, to look at all the information coming in, whether that be weather, you know, like preparing for weather events, you know, preparing for war, you know, intruders, like all of these different things. But within the ministry and the heart of like sending missions and going overseas, if you feel called to serve in other areas, like God calls us to take risk. Right. He does not call us to be careless. And that is so important, that we need to be intentional about what we're being called to and how to prepare. And I hope and pray nothing happens. Yeah. But my goodness, if you have the tools available to train, why would you not?
Yes. Oh, that's unreal. Yeah. What you just said is so unreal. Yeah. Okay. I want to dive deeper into that. I think we can. Yeah. That is so cool. Yeah. Like it's just moving. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit now that you went through this process, you saw you had some eye-opening moments around protection, but also ministry of still staying convicted. But yet, you guys, we need to be safe. Yeah. We need to be careful. You came back to Montana, right?
Yep. So we went on staff.
You went on staff.
And that's when we started the Mission 91 and had like our refuge team. Okay. So rewording what a security team is. And it's a refuge team. So you're not just there to lock doors. You're also there to do ministry. Like I said, if we had to send someone home, okay, this person is still a human being. Like you don't need to talk down to them, degrade them or anything. You can have a real conversation of like, they maybe made a bad decision. Yeah. But they're still worthy of care and kindness and showing God's love. And I think so many people within that ministry context, you think of like church security teams and things like that, like they want to have more of like, I'm either like mall cop security or bouncers feel. And it's like, you're there to do ministry. Yeah. You know, these people are made in the image of God as well. Right. And you need to be able to pick out and see, are they hurting and just need someone to listen to them? Do they have ill intent? Can I de-escalate this? Can I remove the situation? Like, how can I help this person? Because I think so many times people forget that, you know, even within law enforcement, right? Sometimes people just have a bad day and they make really bad decisions. Yes. Does that mean we need to end their life? Right. Or can we try to see them and hear them, you know, without putting obviously ourselves at risk? You still have to be aware, use your training. But that whole thing of like taking a life is such a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's not something to be flippant about.
No. Yeah. No. And let's get into that. Yeah. Because I think you just made a huge point. And I had this conversation the other day with a friend. I know we talked about this before. And we were talking about how, you know, just even handling firearms. And as a woman, I have found that when I even look at a firearm, my whole body kind of freezes up. Versus when I look at my husband and my sons, and my daughter actually is really good with handling firearms, but because she's been exposed to them, she's been educated on them, she's used them for hunting, and for target practice. So, we're working on being okay with handling a firearm. They're all around us, right?
Yeah.
So I was not raised with that. I was raised with shotguns, not necessarily a true handgun.
Yeah.
So, and when I see a handgun, I do have that initial instinct of fear. Is that going to go off? Is somebody going to actually get, accidentally get shot?
Yeah.
This lack of confidence that comes about versus what I've seen with my husband and my sons. It's like, they're just like, it's a gun. Handle it appropriately. But I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Have you, as you've came back to Montana and then you guys realized you wanted to do something with firearm handling. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was your husband the one where we're going to start this company? And was it all about men coming in and teaching them? Or did you guys have men and women signing up? What was that like in the first part of opening your business?
Yeah. So the heart of firearm handling actually started in 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And it was actually going to be my husband and his dad.
Yes. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. So my husband grew up around firearms. His dad was in law enforcement. He was an armor and he helped teach for the academy and stuff. And so my husband grew up doing range days, with people doing quals and stuff like that. And so that was just part of him. But once my father-in-law was retiring and JT was, working the contract security firm, they realized there's always this thing with like a barrier to entry that a lot of people feel, I can't do it. Right. There's so many bad instructors, and so many bad information, especially for women. Like I've literally experienced it here, even in the Valley, of walking into a store and you're in the gun counter area and it's literally like they're looking at you like you're an idiot.
Oh, I can see that.
And even talking down to you. Yeah. When you're like, oh, here's this pretty little pink gun. And I'm like, oh my goodness, people. And so for women in general, like it is so hard to be taken seriously in that. But also to understand, like you were saying, we have a fear of what we don't know.
Right.
So many women don't know about firearms because they've never been taught, or in whatever experiences they've maybe had have been traumatizing.
Yes.
Because you have people who are not following gun safety rules.
Right.
You have the whole concept, I think for women especially, like I need to know every part about this thing and how it works. Because until I know and understand that, I'm not going to touch it.
Right. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Like I don't want to touch it.
What am I even handling? What is this? What's this little knob? What does it do?
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, what if I touch it and it goes off?
Yep.
So there's so much fear.
Things, we talk about, in our fundamentals class is all about, most of the time we are in the class 4 to 5 hours and it's lecture. It is not death by PowerPoint. So anyone who's worried about that, we don't do that.
Right.
This is hands-on. We are literally going through all the different types, functions. We take it apart, show it how to clean it, which are another thing that people, typically women, don't know how to do.
I wouldn't know.
But you should be able to understand all of the parts, and that's what builds that confidence.
Right.
Of like, if this is going to be your tool, it needs to be your tool. You need to be able to take ownership and understand all of the functions within it.
And I want to say this, Anna, I'm thinking out loud of, I think that's wonderful. I would love to be in a class like that. That way I'm a gun owner.
Right.
Okay. I own this gun and my head is like, okay, well, what would I really even do with it? It's not like I'm going out to the range and just shooting by myself. I think that'd be amazing if I had a bunch of women and we all went to the range and that. But the purpose of me owning a gun is for self-defense, for that random occasion that may or may not happen in my life where I have to defend myself. But my thinking is, this is the conversation I had the other day, was if that were to be the case, we as women want to defend ourselves. We have to find a way to do it, right? Because the world's kind of chaotic and turned upside down, and anything can go. And you hear about things like happening all the time to women. Yeah. It's so crazy to me. And now we have this opportunity to be a gun owner. But my thinking is, if I were in one of those situations, would I actually be able to pick that gun up and defend myself without actually hurting myself? And, am I capable of actually pulling the trigger? Because I think initially I'm like, well, I want to give grace, or is he putting just my life in danger, or, is everybody, I would be like, okay, well, I'll just take it. And so my kids can be safe. Right. So I don't even know if I would really even be able to do it. Yeah. Have you ever had those conversations with women? Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. We really talk about a lot during our classes, and that's why it's not death by PowerPoint. It is, you are here to learn, to ask questions, and we'll go through that. Our defensive pistol classes are the ones that we go in a little bit more detail. Okay. In regards to situational awareness, because we personally, our heart and everything is that you should not just have a firearm as the only tool in your tool belt. Right. Like, situational awareness is always going to be your first line of defense. And for women especially, that's one of our best things. Yeah, we have a great gut feeling. Yes. And also, when you think about men and women, who has the most experience with creepy people? Oh, women do. Women do. Yes. And so situational awareness is not just, again, we talked about like environments and being able to see what's an anomaly. A lot of the situational awareness and picking up on those anomalies and stuff is because we have real life experience. And so our brain and our bodies respond before we even recognize what's going on because they've seen it before. Right. They've heard it before and felt it before. And so for us and like how we teach, if you can get out of a situation, so it's called Left to Bang. There's a book called Left to Bang, and we highly recommend it. Okay. A lot of our teaching is based off of that, but that's talking about all of those situational scenarios with environments, and like goes over Cooper's color code. And like when you're going out in public, a lot of people today, right? What are they staring at? They're staring at a phone. Yeah. So you're considered in the white. You are oblivious to everything around you. And where you want to be is more like in the yellow. Okay. So you're not like super paranoid, but you're aware. Right. How many people are in the room that I'm in? Where's the exit? Is there anything happening that I should be aware of? All of those things that a lot of people, I think women, especially women with children, probably do it more so than other people. We're just naturally more aware of our surroundings when we have children. But to be able to assess a situation, and the Left to Bang is that there's all these pre-event indicators, but in anything, there's always pre-event indicators before the situation happens. Yeah. The bang goes off. What we don't want is that we've avoided everything. There's a bang and now we're responding. Yes. And the reality is, with self-defense, you are always responding. You're always going to be behind on time for whatever's happening, in front of you or around you. The situation's already happened. Now you need to assess. And most of us within, that Cooper's color code, most of us, if we don't have training, we go to black. Okay, what's black? Black is you are so in the freeze moment. Oh yeah. You don't know what to do. You're not even sure what happened. And you're losing time. Yes. You're losing time. And so for us, we mainly, you can do other, like in addition to situational awareness, there's also non-lethal tools that you can carry. And then doing something like jujitsu. Like if you want to physically learn, if I don't have a tool on me, how can I help myself or protect myself if there's a physical encounter? Right. Like we recommend all of those. Like anyone who's like, I just have a gun. That's my only thing. You're setting yourself up for failure. There's so many other things that you could
add to your tool belt to be a more rounded, self-defense, safety, informed person.
I love everything that you just said. Wow. That's mind blowing. And
it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah.
And that's why I think just doing one class is probably, it's not enough.
Fundamentals help because I think you need to start there, right? We need to start and understand. And we kind of do more of like the crawl, walk, run.
Yes.
Which
we should. We're handling a deadly weapon. Yes. That's could massively hurt somebody, not just injure them, kill them. Yep. And I know you talked a little bit about being a responsible handler, firearms handler, but also knowing if the gun does go off to be able to help with stopping the bleed.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Again, with that heart, and there's statistics out there too, that a lot of people are like, well, I just need to have an extra mag. Like I'm going to carry my gun, have an extra magazine loaded. And in shooting situations, I need to find the exact statistics, but they rarely ever need that extra magazine. If anything, they need a tourniquet.
Oh.
And so that whole thing of like changing maybe your, everyday carry setup to where you have your firearm, but you have a tourniquet. And the crazy thing, I just took the Stop the Bleed class in October because again, that was like really high on my list. I've increased my training. So over the last 2 years, I've done over 10 classes.
Wow.
And increased that. So with that, we have like our fundamentals. I took multiple fundamentals classes. Then we have our intro to defensive. Then we have our defensive pistol. And then we have our advanced defensive pistol. And so it's that whole thing of like, what is your intention and what are you wanting to push yourself? Because a lot of people don't realize that in a situation, you're going to revert to your most recent training.
Yeah.
Okay. What training are people putting themselves in to prepare for that?
Right.
And like you said, if you haven't put yourself in a high, like we're not doing drop and rolls or, Tomb Raiders or anything like that.
Right.
But we are doing that whole thing of like, okay, in our intro defensive, where are you carrying your firearm? Let's practice drawing.
Yes.
Safely. You're not timed. Let's practice it.
Well, what I think is there's two things that are coming up to me. Okay. One is the carrying piece for a woman versus a man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that second. But my other thing, you said something about the intention. Now I'm going to ask this a blatant question is and I'm trying to like differentiate sexes, but do men have that intention to shoot to kill or do women have the intention to shoot to kind of like disable, meaning like I'm not going to shoot him in the heart, not going to shoot him in the head, I'm going to shoot him in the leg or shoot her in the leg to stop whatever aggression is happening? Is there different intentions?
I mean, I would hope with both intentions, the idea is to stop the threat.
Okay.
But
so you would shoot somebody more in the leg or
no? I would shoot to stop, which would be center. You want an A zone.
Okay.
With that, so I think that goes along with some training that is very questionable. The idea that in a high risk situation, someone's going to have the capability to shoot someone in the leg when you have such a high level of, that adrenaline dump.
Right.
And so the whole
when
thing
you're
of
in it, like dopamine is just
exactly. And so
adrenaline. Yeah.
That's why you train how you would respond. And so we train for A zone.
You do.
And it's to stop the threat. And that's kind of why I have the Stop the Bleed. Because personally, I don't want to take a life.
Right.
And
no one does.
Yeah. And I believe that if I could save the person's life, even if they meant ill intent, like I've secured the scene, my family's safe, whoever's safe. If I can render aid and save this person's life, who's to say that God can't redeem them and change their life?
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of the heart behind it of like, I will if I have to. I don't want to.
No.
Well,
that's what I was like having this conversation with a friend. I'm like, and I point blank said, I'm like, if you were in a situation like that, could you and would you? And both of us looked at each other and said, I don't know, because that's taking a life.
Yeah.
And however, the different, I had the same conversation with my husband, and my husband was like, absolutely. If you're being threatened, my life's being threatened, your life's the kids' lives are being threatened. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And I'm like, but
I think part of that, like you said, though, is that confidence level.
It's confidence.
Your husband has that training,
right?
To where he knows his tool and he feels confident in his training, where you haven't, had as much intentional training. And so you said like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And that's why I think women, we need to stop outsourcing our safety to other people. Whether that be, I'm going to call 911, I'm going to call my husband. My husband's always going to be with me. All of those things. I mean, in our day to day, I am usually alone with the kids.
Right.
I am their safety.
Yes.
And so I think kind of for me, like getting past the diaper stage and the sleep deprivation, having some situations over the years where I just felt this heavy weight of like, I'm a liability to my family right now. I'm doing nothing to train to where if something happened,
right.
What could I do? And so it's not just training with a firearm, like physically, spiritually, mentally. What am I doing to raise my intensity level of training to be able to respond effectively and efficiently in a situation? And so I was like, okay, it's on me.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't rely on somebody else to pull a trigger for me.
Right. And it goes back to what you said. We are not prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't know the way the world's going to go.
Yeah.
And I think that preparation piece is being more talked about.
Yeah.
People are preparing with food and,
there's
stockpiling because of COVID.
Yeah,
I got to stockpile, right?
Yep.
But no one thinks about the protection piece.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they do.
Yeah.
In my circles, they do.
Yeah.
But you're right. As though I'm a liability because I'm reliant on somebody else to protect me.
Yep.
And we should not have that mindset. No. Yes.
Yeah.
This is such good conversation.
And I think it's crazy. And I think clearly, like in Montana, it's dependent on where you live, where you might have like a better understanding. But for us, if we call 911, it's like 45 minutes.
For sure. Yeah.
So, especially if you're in the backcountry, how much longer?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like I'm technically in a city and I know, that even within that of like, I don't know where they are in the valley.
Right.
How long they have to drive. I mean, we live off of the highway where if there's an accident, the road's shut down.
I know.
For hours.
I know.
You cannot rely on other people. And that's why you have to, oh my goodness, especially as a mom, we do CPR. Like most moms do CPR.
Right,
that's
right.
Not an abnormal thing, but yet we don't do stop the bleed, tourniquets, like all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, if something happens, why not? Why not have a cat tourniquet at home? Like why not have a suction thing if someone's choking?
Yes.
Like all of these things that it just seems silly to not use the tools that are available.
You're right.
Yeah.
We have become we've become so codependent.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And we're not going back. We all deeply don't want to think about those worst case scenarios, but they do. They come into our forefront of our minds, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I'll just call 911 or that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
But it does. And I think as women need to be better prepared. We've enabled ourselves to be not self-reliant in all aspects of our lives. And this is an important conversation to be had. I love this conversation. Yeah. I do want to say though, it is interesting, if you are in one of the, I was just thinking, of a place that we go to that's way far away. I mean, it's not that far away, but to get there, it's rough. And I thought to myself, I want to go up there just to go hang out and, relax. But I thought, I should probably have things in case things happen. And, I don't know who's going to show up at the door and how would I handle myself? And it does give me anxiety. But the Montana piece, the Montana laws here are quite different than they are in other states. And I know some states you can't carry. You know, I mean, they're trying to take away they're trying to remove as much access to guns and the type of guns and
capacity, all the things,
all of it. And it's like, well, a gun's a gun, in my personal opinion. That's my personal opinion. I've had this conversation over and over again. I don't give a crap if it's can fire like 6 rounds, you know what I mean? Like a dozen rounds all at once. It's still going to hurt you. It's still going to potentially kill you, no matter what type of gun it is. But also the back end of it is so unbelievably scary. If you are, I think Montana's more of a self-defense state. Like you have the ability to, you know, anybody comes on your property, you can use a gun. Illinois was not like that. No. And it's just different. And I think, you know, we moved out here and I thought to myself, how unreal it is that, you know, we have to basically wipe away our memory of living back in the Midwest, because it is a different scenario here. And what is not allowed, but permitted. Yeah. And then on the back end, what was it? Did you try to do all things before you did shoot? You know, all those pieces. And you don't think, I mean, those things come into my mind if I am a gun owner and gun handler, like, gosh, you know, I don't want to be in prison because I defended myself. Those fears that come into play. Do you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And I think that's something, you know, every person that walks into a classroom or anyone that purchases a firearm, right? Like, it is a heavy responsibility.
Yes.
And it should not be taken lightly.
Right.
At all. And that's why I think there's this lack of understanding that it's a diminishing skill. Yeah. And so you can't just take one class. And you have to consistently train, but also to make sure that your tool is in working order. Right. You know, and there's there's training ammo, there's defensive ammo, all of those things. Again, I am not a lawyer. Right. But people have gotten in trouble in defensive situations because they have training ammo in their firearm instead of defensive ammo. What's the difference? So training ammo does not expand and like stop, whereas defensive ammo is meant to stop within the cavity. Oh, got you. Know, of what you're shooting. Training ammo just, you know, shoots through. And that's why you need to use those at training, you know, ranges and stuff like that. And you don't use defensive ammo at training facilities. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. That's interesting. And so all those things were like, you have to be informed, right, to understand the tool that you're using. Right. But also you don't, like you said, you don't want to get yourself in a legal situation. But the reality is, if you do have a situation, just expect you're going to get sued. Yeah, that's true. You know, if you kill someone, whether if you're in the right legally, their family could probably still sue you. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and you just need to understand. And then you, as that individual, needs to make that decision. Do I want to carry that? Do I want to put myself, you know, in that scenario? Or should I use these other tools? Yes. You know, like you have pepper spray, you have alarms, you have knives. Right. You have other things that you can use to try to not have to engage to that level of threat. Right. You know, with a firearm. Yeah, that's right. Those are the things before you purchase a gun. Yep. These are conversations that need to be had. Yeah. Even people that purchase a gun for bear protection. I think it's fascinating when you talk to other Montanans and they're like, yeah, I own a gun. I use it for bear protection. I'm like, well, how often do you shoot that sucker? Right. Do you hear that ever as well? Yeah. I mean, we have a bear gun as well, but it's funny to me when you think of like the statistics of encountering a bear, let alone like an angry bear. I've seen bears being here, you know, the last 6 years, twice maybe. Right. But nothing to where like threatened or anything like that. Have I had more situations with human beings that are sketch? Absolutely. Oh yeah, sure. Absolutely. And it's like, well, if you carried for a bear, why wouldn't you carry something for a human? Right. That's true. Yes. My son actually had an encounter with a male or female bear and her cubs. Whoops. 15 feet in front of him, stood up on hind legs, and they were bear hunting, and the outfitter guy that was there with my husband and my boys,
he saw the danger that they were in, and he pushed him down, and Jack was holding the rifle. Jack was ready because he was like, this bear's coming after me.
Yeah.
He was literally 15 feet. She was literally 15 feet in front of him. It startled her because they actually came around a switchback on a logging road.
Yep.
And the cubs were playing. And so then she came around and she was all up on hind legs.
Absolutely.
But he wasn't like ready. He wasn't ready for it. And so the actual guy, he pushed him out of the way and shot at her foot and scared her off.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I told my husband, I'm like, you can't go out there with these boys and not have them ready. My other thinking too is, the other thing that we've had concerns about is accidental discharge. Discharge. Does that, talk to me a little bit about that piece.
Yeah. So that's part of the fundamentals.
It's part of your
fundamentals. It's part of the fundamentals as far as.
And that's because they didn't check it, right?
Yeah. So with the fundamentals, you always assume a gun is loaded.
Yes. We tell our kids that all the time.
And so then because of that, like we don't point a firearm at anything we don't intend to shoot.
Right.
And then also like once you do intend to shoot, right, what is beyond your target? Right. Because that's another factor. With hunting and stuff, you can't just like shoot whatever. Well, in a defensive situation, if you're in a building, say, a school or a church or the grocery store or something like that, there are other civilians around. Yeah. You can't just shoot willy-nilly. Like you need to know what's behind your target. Can you change your elevation and your level and do those things? So that's something with like, again, what is your intention for your training? How far do you want to go? Yeah. How far do you want to push yourself in understanding your capabilities, the capabilities of your firearm to shoot in unorthodox positions? Like if you're in a car accident or a road rage incident, where's your firearm? Right. Is it on you? Yes. Did you throw it in a bag that's in the back seat? Yeah. Like all of these things that you really need to consider and think about of like, what is happening? Am I capable? Am I able? Where that whole thing of like our firearm should always be on you. So either on your person or in your bag. If it's in a bag, it needs to be on you. Yes. It needs to be across you.
And you carry, men carry, it seems like my husband has carried in like a little holster kind of like in the side of his body. When he's given me the gun, he strapped this thing in the front of me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's when I was going hiking? Huckleberry picking with my daughter and he put, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
So it was in the front. It had something.
But it made me feel so uncomfortable. Yeah. But you do need to have, and you need to know how your body is going to pull it out quickly. Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So with the fundamentals, right? Like we always have a holster. We recommend a Kydex holster. So that way you have something covering the trigger guard. A lot of leather ones eventually will have wear. Okay. And you also you need to be aware of your clothing. So we always say like draw as quickly as you can, safely as you can when you're training. That whole progress as safely at your level as you can. We don't want to rush anyone to potentially put them in an unsafe situation. Right. Like know thyself.
Yes.
We are training, to move up, but know thyself. And you're never in a hurry to reholster.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Ever.
Yes.
That is typically when an accidental discharge can happen because you have clothing get caught. Your finger could accidentally, like any of those. And that was another safety rule of not only is it off the trigger, like your finger is always off the trigger until you're ready to engage, it's high and off.
High and off.
High and off. So it's on the frame above. So many people will put their finger inside. And again, when you're dealing with high stress situations, you end up doing things that you don't intentionally mean to do. But you are responsible for every single bullet that comes out of that gun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, with women especially, like I have typically like 3 different carry options or 4 different carry options that I use, but I use the same holster. Okay. Throughout all of those.
Do women carry in purses? Like satchels?
Yep. Some of them can. I usually prefer on body is always going to be your quickest. Okay. So that's something that's the intentional training of going to the range, get your times. How long does it take you to draw from appendix? How long does it take you to draw from your bag? what bag, like all of these different variations.
Yes.
And you need to know that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking situationally, if you got somebody standing in front of you, you don't want to like fuss with your bag, unzip the zippers. You want it to
Lord,
be.
No, I don't do anything with zippers.
Yeah. You want it out.
Those
You want it ready to go.
So we talk about it in our class again. You need to understand the mechanics of what you're doing.
Right.
And does that bag fit that need or not? Or is that going to make you a liability?
Yes. This is such a good conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, all the little details that I didn't even really think about.
Yeah. And it's hard. There is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, good grief, if you want to go into firearms and just talk about the different variations. But that's why in our fundamentals class, you don't have to have a firearm to take the class.
Oh, okay.
We offer, typically 4 to 5 different variations.
Yeah.
You can try.
Yes.
If you don't have an understanding or knowledge base of the different firearms and what the different options can be, the last thing we would want is for you to buy a gun, someone else to buy you a gun, and then you hate it, and then you never use it.
That's a great idea.
That defeats the purpose of your intent. If you're taking it for self-defense, you need to be comfortable, and you need to go out and train. And there's even safe options to train at home with dry fire to where you don't have to use ammo, but you can work on that skill set. It's muscle memory.
Yes, I would think it would be.
Muscle memory.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I got to ask you. You were initially, I'm going back in time, when you were younger and you're like, I think I want to be a police officer. Do you feel at this point you missed your calling?
No.
No? You feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I can see that. Yeah.
I think that was a little bit of that protector heart.
Yeah.
And I remember since I was 5 of being, my dad walked me up to these police officers it was actually at an abortion rally in Kansas.
Oh, gotcha.
And I just remember looking up at them and just being like, I'm going to be one of them one day. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. Like, I just felt so honored. And I think even that we've lost in our society where we want to demonize our first responders and the weight, that they carry. Because so many people say, like, our military, they can go and serve and they come back home.
Yeah.
And it's a different environment. Our first responders serve in their communities. And they sometimes have to worry about being in the grocery store with their family and encountering someone that they just, got released from jail.
Yes.
And stuff like that. And so I think for me, especially being as a mom and stuff like that, like, I think I was saved from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of dealing with some of that stuff. I still have a high level and respect. And I think God has used that to a different avenue, to where I can work with civilians, and like people in my community to help them train and prepare themselves.
Yes.
For hopefully no scenario, right?
Right.
Like hopefully you never have to use your gun.
Yes.
But I want you to be confident and understand to where you can go out and you're not going to have to worry, having that confidence level of like, I know my tools, I'm confident in my capabilities, my situational awareness, and that I can stay left to bang. I don't have to wait for an event to happen.
Yes, I can see that. You light up when you talk about it. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to watch. I love to see people that are walking in their purpose and their passion. And it's like I always feel like God has always had this plan for all of us.
Yep.
And it started when we were younger. Yep. We just didn't see it. Yeah. And then when we do this storytelling and we talk about it, I'm like, oh, that was in your childhood. That was foreshadowing, right? I can see you being that. I've always been a talker. My parents were like, she can talk to the wall and have a full conversation. I was always meant to do something like this. You were always meant to be in the role that you're in now. And it's wonderful. I just wish we as women recognized that earlier on. We just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, some people do. You did.
Yeah. And I'm not, again, I think it had something to do with my upbringing. Again, I wasn't around handguns. But one of the things that my dad did is that it didn't matter that I was a girl.
Right.
I still did hard labor and work around. And so I think it's that mentality, and a lot of people want to like demonize it or whatever, being more of an alpha female. Right. And they want to say like, you can't be masculine and feminine. And it's like, no, you can.
Yeah, you can.
You can carry both. And And I think with women especially, like we have a higher risk of being in a situation.
Yeah.
And the statistics are there. Like it just came out, was the Department of Justice, that crimes against strangers was up 60%.
Holy buckets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And big part of that is women are the ones that are getting attacked.
Yep.
It's so scary.
And it's crazy too, because I think, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but you think of the influx of people that we've had in our country from different cultures. And again, that's that piece within the ministry side we recognize.
Yeah.
That when you go into other cultures, there is a different level of respect for women. Mm-hmm. And or really lack thereof.
That's true.
And what we don't realize is that we've brought a lot of that into our country, and these people don't understand or don't care about our laws. I mean, clearly they already broke one coming in, and there's no documentation for them or where they are, and trying to find them, like it's a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
And that's that whole thing where like people want to pull, on our heartstrings with empathy for them. And yeah, you can have empathy for people in a bad situation, but I'm not necessarily going to have empathy on someone who wants to target me and my family.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
that's the whole thing where like, prepare. There's so many careless deaths that happen with young women. Mm-hmm. And, people, again, they want to say you're paranoid or whatever. It's not paranoid. Like, look at the news and see it is happening. So you have the information. You can choose to ignore it or not.
Right.
But why would you not prepare?
Exactly. And I think we've lived in a state of sleepiness.
Oh, yeah.
And our ancestors, our great-great-grandmothers and grandfathers were prepared for everything because they had to be, because they had only themselves to rely on.
Yep.
And now we've gone into a dormant stage in our mind, and we've had these kids that also have that mindset. And now I think everybody's kind of waking up a bit.
Yep. Like you're first responder.
Yes.
That idea, you're it. No one's coming to save you.
No one's coming to save you. Really?
So why sit on that?
Exactly.
And I do struggle with that too, because I know within ministry as well, there are people that are passive.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like not everyone necessarily is called. And again, that's that responsibility factor. My issue is when you try them because that is your conviction to put that on me and other people.
Oh.
Yeah. Like you can be passive. It's okay. I can also be a protector. Yes. We can both do and be okay and, godly in that. But a lot of people want to say, no, you can only be this. And it's like, no, that's not biblical.
No. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours. Okay. So unfortunately, we're down to our last 3 questions.
Okay. Oh man.
This was so awesome. And I feel like right now I just want to do a big event for women. I really do.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
But I've just learned, I've taken away so many things from this conversation. It's really quite mind blowing, but I want to transition and I want to ask you, what do you think society gets wrong about women's relationships with firearms?
I think there tends to be 2 very polar opposite, that you either have to be more of like a masculine, female dressed like a dude, all that kind of stuff. Or there is also the other extreme where like you got to be in a string bikini, with a firearm. Again, no.
Yeah.
No. You can dress modestly. You can handle
You can be a
yourself.
mom.
You can be feminine.
Yes.
Without being, risky. All of those things where like they want to put a stigma to who carries a firearm.
Right.
And what type of person they are. And I think my heart and everything behind that is like, no, like if you feel convicted, like you've been entrusted with children or people within your community, and you feel that nudging or that calling to protect, that's all that matters. Like get the training, use, again, I told you there's some bad training out there.
Yeah.
and questionable training. And I think for women especially, like, it's difficult to train with our husbands. That's something that we talk about in our classes, where a lot of our women's classes is really my experience.
Oh, okay.
Like all of that information is experience that my husband learned in trying to teach me in firearms and all the bad ways.
Right. Well,
he did that.
They load the gun for your husband loads the gun for you.
Yep.
And here you could just go ahead and point and shoot.
Yeah. That's not helpful. That's not building confidence. That's not equipping them to be their own person to self-rescue.
Yes.
It's good intentions done really poorly.
Yep.
And so, with that, if you have that calling, like, there's no look, to it.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many options for how to carry, to be, careful and safe and comfortable without having to change, who you are as a person.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay. I have a funny question for you. Okay. If you could name a firearm after yourself, what would it be called and why?
All right.
I was like, what? This is just a great question.
Yes. So I'll be honest, I did ask my husband this because I think it helps, right? Having that outside perspective of someone who knows you, the best, because we've been married 18 years, going on 19.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful.
You. Yeah.
Yes.
Long time.
Long time.
Long time. And so I think if I was going to have a firearm, which, good grief, to have a firearm named after you would just be an honor. It would be the Lioness.
The Lioness.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. So it's that whole thing of you are capable of protecting your young by yourself. You do have, the king next to you, but you are capable and confident to be able to handle yourself, but also you can still be submissive to his leadership.
I love that.
Yeah.
You should get a gun and with an engravement Lioness on it.
Know.
That'd be badass. Yeah. That's awesome, Anna.
Thanks.
Okay. Our last question, and it's our signature question for the podcast. It's, if you could pass the mic to a Montana woman to share their story on the IWD406 podcast, who would she be and why?
Yes, I love this question. And thank you to Natalia for
I know.
passing the mic to me.
She's a badass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, what a huge honor. And I loved her podcast and her sharing. But I mean, she took one of our classes, and just to know that had a huge impact. Like, I'm so honored to be here. So my person would be Taylor with Church and State Designs.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So she's here local in the Valley. And her husband's a first responder, but someone from our very first class, when we were talking about different options to carry, was like, you need to reach out to Church and State. So we had never heard of them. So I reached out, and she invited us over. We had dinner, and we were able to look at her bags, give feedback and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, her heart and her passion, she just has such an amazing story for what's, catalyst the start of her business was being in a situation where there was an active violent intruder.
What?
Yeah. And
wow.
So that changed, the trajectory of her life. She now has this passion to help women in caring, finding that confidence and self-defense, but giving them an option to carry that's not ugly looking.
Right. Okay. She has a bag line.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's leather.
It's leather. Yes.
Oh, I know.
Her artisans are amazing. And that's the other thing, like the integrity within the product itself and how thought out, finding the people and the material and all of those things to where you're not using third world country, to make these bags and stuff. So, I mean, we're supporting a local Montana family. And, the heart behind it and everything. She's just a beautiful woman inside and out. And we absolutely love and endorse her bags.
I love it. And it's Church and State Designs.
Church and State Designs, yeah.
Very cool.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited. I didn't realize she had a story behind, everybody has a story behind, what they do. But yeah, I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you come back on.
I would love to.
We need to do another episode diving deeper into firearm handling and just, I don't know, there's so many ways we can go about it.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool. Yeah. And we need to do an event up here in the Northwest.
Yes. No,
for sure.
We would love to. We'd love to help.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
A special thank you to our podcast guest. You can find all of her links in the description of this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You will be notified of future podcast guests. Follow us on our social media platforms and stay tuned for our next podcast chat with an amazing Montana woman.